right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm really happy to welcome you all here. So just before as usual, if some of you don't know, I'm Simona. I'm Hospitable's community manager. So just a few housekeeping items before we kick things off. A quick reminder that our town halls are always recorded and they will be made available for you to listen on our Hospitable YouTube channel, and you can also listen to the replays here. So first we'll get started with some company updates, and then we'll let you know what's going on with the business. Just a heads up that this week's topic is alterations, cancellations, and security deposits in light of some recent Airbnb changes. So stay tuned for that. And at the end, we'll open up for a Q&A session. So when the time comes for you to raise your hand through the app, we will invite folks on stage so you can ask your questions. Please remember to mute yourself when you're on stage and you aren't speaking as a sign of courtesy. So in case you're not comfortable on stage, or you don't want to be recorded, you can always ask your questions via the chat function, and we'll have Zach help us escalate some questions to the stage there. And yeah, I think that's all for me for now. Pierre, I leave it to you.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to have a few company or high-level updates to share first, and I'm going to start product-wise. So with the exception of security deposit, we're continuing to work on direct and on payment processing. And I think we need to start by basically stating the obvious is that we are too slow on bringing payment processing to markets, and that basically is slower than our expectations. So the last 2 weeks have been quite frustrating for our engineering team, in particular on bringing items to the expected level of completion and at the same time handling a lot of the complexity that comes with building payment processing for a product like direct. And we're basically handling all the complexity, but also just the complexity that is expected. That it's very easy to find fringe scenarios or more unexpected cases that are unlikely to happen in real life and we are optimizing for. So that needed to stop. And I've been working with the team, with the engineering team in particular, to calm things down, implementing at the same time clear specs to set the direction and expect what are the expectations. And for that should hopefully result in a faster delivery and ensuring that developers are developing things once and basically according to what is expected. So we can follow up a little bit on that within our Q&A, and Ben will also share some product update on that subject. It's the beginning of the month. That also is a time when I'm sending an investor update to the people that have invested into the company, which are 43 customers, friends of family, and families of employees in the team. So if you are one of those, you will be invited to an investor meetup on the 8th of June for sharing deeper updates on company strategy and Q&A on basically some of the updates regarding the company. Last 2 weeks actually were a little bit more investor heavy than usual. I want to basically bring the rolling safe, bring the token, the host token, past its initialization phase into a running phase. So basically reflecting a fair value for our company. And that means basically meeting with some institutional investors to invest within the rolling safe. We're now close to $580,000, so it's still a great opportunity for the right investor to step in at, dare I say, an incredibly attractive valuation for a company that actually does not reflect the growth that we've accomplished in the previous month. So talking about that, for the month of May, revenue has been growing 6%, reaching close now to $300,000 monthly recurring revenue, which is basically a growth of 40% for the first 5 months of the year. It seems a little bit slower in May than in previous month. I do believe that seasonality is the greatest cause. The churn is historically at one of its lowest points, below 2% of customer churn per month. But seasonality basically caused an extra contraction for current customers, which means it was more likely compared to the month of April to have invoices a little bit of a slower amount, which is totally fair. That's actually very much the point of our pricing. The good story I want to share, that customer growth is also getting much harder now. So at the beginning of the year, we communicated that several times during those tunnels that we wanted to target 10,000 active customers for Hospitable by December 2022. And the thing is that in the first 3 months of the year, we're actually growing much faster. And so now we increase the target to 13,000 customers by the end of December. So that's more than 140% growth on a yearly basis. So we are basically keep on adding new customers and retaining the ones that we have at a very good rate. So we have added a record 560 new customers, which represent a 7% growth month over month. But that's actually is no longer sufficient to sustain that objective. So you're going to hear from us. You should see us more often on your social media, on different marketing channels. And the easiest one for us to talk about is actually going to be referrals. And that's going to be up to my great colleague, Matthew Demetrio, to share what we are doing in terms of referrals that should be facilitating your invoices 1 month at a time. Matthew, up to you.
Yeah, time for me to start earning a bit more of my salary here, I guess you could say. Yeah, but those challenges, we're excited for them. We're taking them head on, and looking forward to all the potential that we have. So with that said, we are pushing for referrals. So did you know that we have a referral program, right? We've said that probably several weeks in a row now, so I'm sure you do. But you can help out fellow hosts and be compensated for your effort. So to get started, we're doubling the referral bonus in the month of June to help us try to kickstart and generate some more business here. So any referral you invite in the month of June who becomes a Hospitable customer is going to earn you and them $20 off your next bill. So go to settings, then invite a host for your unique referral link. Spread the Hospitable love. I'm sure we all know a host who's getting buried right now during the busy season. Let them know about Hospitable, and we know they'll thank you, probably during the low season, but I'm sure they will. Aside from that, we recently had our Hospitable Host Workshop. So we talked about the pros and cons of listing on multiple channels. Over 100 attendees. I think it was a great discussion. A lot of good information being shared. The biggest takeaway for me from the panel was that, mo channels equals mo problems, respect to Biggie. But adding more channels ended up being more of a headache for the panelists, and it didn't necessarily result in higher revenues. So the vast majority were sticking to just Airbnb, Vrbo. Some had a bit of a direct strategy. Some even downsized all the way back to just Airbnb. Next, so, keep that in mind. Focus on your business. What are your goals? And then those goals are going to help determine where you want to go next. If you're just looking for this as something to do on the side, Airbnb only. But if you're really trying to grow and scale, that's when we need to start considering what other channels can drive some revenue. So next up on the marketing calendar, at the end of the month here, I believe June 23rd, is going to be how to beautify your listing and attract more high-value bookings with Sarah Karakayan. She's got some great content out there, and I'm really looking forward to having a discussion with her on how we can help you really attract more, especially now with the Airbnb updates, right? Those photos, they always played such a huge role. They're going to continue to play an even bigger role. So making sure that, not only do we have that nice listing, but we're also making sure that that's shared with those potential guests. So sponsoring an event near you, we're looking to sponsor some smaller scale local events. We're going to be kicking that off in the month of June by sponsoring an event from the STR Nation out there in California. So if you know of any great events for hosts, any small scale hosts, any events for hosts just getting started or looking to grow, feel free to send me a message, Matthew@hospitable.com. We'd love to help out and get involved in any way we can. And with that, speaking of local events, we're putting the finishing touches on our ambassador program. So the goal with the ambassador program is to provide another space for our community to connect, for you to connect with other local hosts, hosts in your area, a way for hosts to support each other and connect through Hospitable. So we're going to be starting this off in a few Hospitable-friendly cities. So I think, we're looking at places like LA or Southern California, Atlanta, but you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the near future. And again, don't hesitate to reach out. You can always check out on our website resources, how you can help. There's a few places there where you can get some more information on how you can help Hospitable if you so desire. Our NPS is sitting at a 61 over the past 30 days. speaking about continued desire to improve, right? Quality-driven support here. So a review form is now going to be sent whenever a conversation with one of our support team members is closed. So we strongly invite you to complete that form, to take on, what we can learn from it, how we can grow. So of course, this doesn't have an impact on the compensation of our agents, but it does help us coach our support team and ensure that, our quality expectations are being met. As we continued, we're committed to delivering those high quality customer support experiences, and this is surely going to help us improve. I guess I just had a conversation because I literally just got a CSAT email to go ahead and grade a recent conversation with a hospitable host. So we appreciate any support you can give us with that. And then lastly, in our support pipeline, we're developing a plan to offer some phone support in some capacity to our hosts. So it's in the really early planning stages, but we do hope to be on the phone with you all rather soon. And I think that pretty much covers it from the sales, marketing, support side. So I thank you all, and I'll pass the mic along to Ben. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Matthew. Thanks for that. Hey, everybody. So today I want to share some updates with you around what the product and engineering teams have been working on since we last spoke. So we've got some updates to share today around security deposits for Airbnb, like Pierre mentioned, some smart lock updates, and some progress to share with you on direct as well. So first up in the pipe, recently, as you probably all know, Airbnb made some changes to stop hosts from charging security deposits to guests for their stays. With one important exception and caveat, any host who's using API connected software still has the ability to set these security deposits. The good news, that's us. Hospitable.com is API connected with Airbnb, meaning that all of our customers do have the ability to set security deposits still on Airbnb. The bad news, that's going to turn into a good news, I promise. We didn't have a way to let you define that security deposit and send it to Airbnb. So we heard your feedback on this, thanks in particular to the Hospitable Hosts group on Facebook and to anybody else who reached out about this. And as Pierre touched on earlier, this morning my time today, we launched the ability to allow you to set those security deposits for Airbnb listings. What does that mean? It's going to inform the guest during the booking flow that a deposit is required and will be collected separately by the host. So currently we don't process or collect those security deposits on your behalf. We are just informing the guest that can be captured as part of the booking flow for Airbnb. But as we said, we do allow you to define that amount. And one of the topics today on the town hall is security deposits. So we're not done with what we want to do in that area yet. So if you do have any questions when we get to the Q&A portion of this town hall, we would love to chat to you a bit more about security deposits and your experiences with them. Okay, so next up, on the last town hall, I shared that we were working on a remote lock integration. So currently, when it comes to smart locks, we allow you to integrate with Schlage encode devices. That sounds very technical. Smart locks. But we're looking to extend that integration via something called Remote Lock, which would enable you to have much more choice as to what smart locks you want to use in your properties and integrate with Hospitable. So that's going to give you the ability to start considering Yale locks, August locks, Quickset locks, Igloo home locks as well. Since we last spoke, Christian and the team have been making some great progress on this. I don't have any specific kind of details just to share yet, but with fair winds, we're targeting the middle of June to have something that you could start to play with. So not long, hopefully by the next town hall, we'll have some really good updates to share on that. And not forgetting direct. So as always, as I say every time, the team's been doing a lot of work on direct, some of which you would have seen, some of which is still kind of sadly under the covers as we start to build out some of those bits that we need to launch payment processing. So some of the things we've been working on that you won't be able to see just yet. Taxes. So we talked a little bit about taxes last time, but basically the ability to define and collect taxes that you need to capture as part of your direct booking flow. This is super, super close. So something is coming for taxes imminently in the next day or a couple of days. And I'll talk more about how we're going to release that as well in a minute. The team's also been working a lot on another topic of this town hall, which is alterations and cancellations. It's no good being able to accept direct bookings if you can't then alter them, cancel them. As we know and we've seen from our experience, one of the first things everybody tends to do is test the system out, kick the tires, make a reservation, and cancel that reservation. Not great if we don't have that. So that's something we've been working on as well. As well as, again, thank you for your feedback on this for people that have raised it. We're working in the background on notifications as well. So making sure that you as a host and your guests remain fully notified of everything that happens in the direct booking flow. So request to book made, alterations, cancellations, you name it. We want to be able to make sure that you're on top of it and you can action it if you need to. So those are the three things we're working on in direct that you haven't seen much about yet, but they're coming very soon. But since the last town hall, the other thing we've done with direct is we've shipped the new booking experience. This went live last Tuesday. So what you'll notice at the moment is that visually, your potential guests who are trying to request a book, they're going to see an updated look and feel. As we start to flesh out bits of direct and direct bookings, we need to capture more information from your guests to process that booking and to make sure it's a successful booking. So this new booking experience is kind of the foundational flow to kind of let us build on that, if that makes sense. Doesn't make much sense, I'm talking rubbish. Long story short, visually it looks very different. More importantly, it's ready. The booking flow is ready for payment processing once we turn payment processing on. So it's kind of an important milestone for us. So the question I imagine everybody's asking, when can I start adding my taxes? When can I start taking payments via Stripe? We shared last time that we want to release this to begin with to a small private pilot audience of hosts. You should have all received an email by now with a link to register your interest. So if you haven't, let us know. We can send that to you. We're going to start pretty small, being completely honest, and we're going to start with taxes. So the intention is by the end of this week, at the very latest, we want to have assembled the kind of base part of that pilot and give you access to taxes. Once you do that, you're going to be able to define your taxes. Thank you, Pierre, for sharing the link in Clubhouse just there, directly to the form to register your interest if you haven't already. So yeah, by the end of the week with that pilot group, we want to be sharing taxes so you can define them. Taxes will show up for guests when they go through the booking flow, and we'll account for that. Followed very quickly next week, once we put the final bits in place of payment processing, finally. So yeah, we are making our way there with that pilot group. If you don't get accepted into the pilot straight away, as I mentioned, we will be looking to expand it once we've got some of that early initial feedback. So yeah, stay tuned and thank you in advance. We really appreciate your help with getting involved with this and starting to crack payment processing. So I think that's everything I've got to share on product. So quickly to recap, security deposits can now be captured for Airbnb. You will find this under your property detail screen. So if you go into properties, select a property, click on prices, you should be able to define your security deposit now for Airbnb. Remote lock, moving forward, we're going to have something to share in the next couple of weeks. And direct, moving forward, the pilot is being assembled, and we're going to have taxes to share imminently with payment processing following up next week. That's all I've got.
We're gonna jump to the Q&A, and so I think basically thank you very much, Ben, for sharing those multiple updates, and we're gonna go and take a deeper dive on everything that obviously you just talked about. But so thank you very much for everyone that already completed the form that we just shared here on pinning in the room. If you have checked that out yesterday, you've probably seen that this link was closed, and that's because there were so many replies that we did not have any kind of type form stopped allowing us to process more responses. So we had to upgrade that this morning to ensure that we could actually collect all the responses for all the customers that would like there. So that was a funny thing to wake up to. And I just wanted to share a few kind of insights. So because after all, we're in this together, and I think that can help us being accountable on the product that we're building, but also sharing who exactly our customers and what we're building those products for. Are you currently processing direct bookings? Yes, 56%. No, 44%. So that tells you something really about the fact that direct booking from the early response, people that have responded early to that survey were obviously very motivated about getting it out there. I don't have yet the sum amount, but that's something I would love to have because we're asking you about the total amount that you have processed from direct bookings the past 12 months. So that's basically something that we can have as an estimate, but I'm seeing quite significant numbers, especially from people that have responded early to that survey. 48% don't use a payment processor. 92% need a solution for guest screening. 53% need a solution for tax compliance. 30% are using an accountant to deal with that. 75% do not insure their direct bookings. 23% are using a third, 23, okay, I'm adding a few more. Yeah, we're reaching to 25% obviously, for people that are using some third-party tool for insuring their guests. So obviously those are the customers that have more likely, or those are the hosts that have most likely already built some experience on direct bookings. 94% have no solution for managing their chargebacks, which basically from the industry, from travel and hospitality, is basically one of the worst segments to be in. And that's also one of the key factors that's going to make the success of the payment processing. It's not just collecting the payment, it's defending it against chargebacks, because, it works when it is an annoyance when you're dealing with, let's say, a $25 a month subscription. It is of a very different scale when you're processing $10,000 for a reservation, which is not something unheard of, especially when I look at the numbers that have already been processed. So that obviously it is just one data point. What I find is that basically it's more interesting to find those different groups between those that are currently doing dry bookings, those that are not, those that have some experience, and those that do not. That gives us a lot of insights into who we should be inviting for the private pilot, since we want them to be very qualified and know exactly what they're going to be doing and bringing a lot of feedback with their depth of experience. So we are looking for companies, more likely, property managers that have already built some processes around guest screening, around payment processing, around tax compliance, to ensure that basically they can have beneficial experience as we are going to ramp up our features towards basically what we would contemplate as early product maturity, and basically be able to launch that to everyone, which is going to take quite a bit of time. We're processing with payments on an industry that's quite complicated, and so basically we believe everything has to be bundled together nicely to ensure that we can do a compelling experience. We can easily process credit cards right now. That's not the challenge on payment processing. Payment processing is really everything else for us to be able to get to a launch for this part. Okay, so we can launch the Q&A. So if you would love to get you on stage, you can raise your hands. Hopefully keep your phone in one of them. And so, yeah, we'd love to talk about security deposits. I know you processed basically the latest update from Airbnb that has decided that basically they would not even communicate about security deposit anymore. That's basically they've rolled back the scope of their feature on security deposits continuously since they launched, before capturing, then authorizing, then it's a limitation of liability, then basically it's nothing at all, to the point where now what we have released, and a reminder for everyone, is basically we allow you to inform guests that they will need and they can expect to pay to collect a security deposit. Now there is something that we're going to need to do, and that's basically how do we collect the security deposit. Now, collecting a security deposit, can it be done without a signature? Can it be done with do we need to have a signature agreement, something like that? Is that you going to be to upload? Is that going to be us? Is this feature very valuable for you? Is there something that actually is just nice to have that you would use if we offer it to you, but it's not really compelling on your businesses? And we would love to talk again. That's too many things, I believe, I would love to prioritize security deposit, but I think we would like to, what we scheduled before Monday was really talking more towards alterations and cancellations for direct bookings. So that's something that we have developed already, but we would love to get some feedback on some of the assumptions that we're using on product. How often do you alter? What do you believe should happen? Do you believe that it's, for example, mandatory to have the guest approving an alteration? Considering it's a direct booking, we are currently building something where you are the one managing the reservation yourself. So you are the one that can change the dates. You are the one who can decide to cancel and basically enforce your cancellation policy. So we'd love to get the ball rolling, and I think we can get a few things started. Obviously, we'd love to get questions focusing on those items first. Simona, I will let you.
We have Crystal on stage already.
Oh.
So.
Hi,
Okay.
yes.
I didn't even notice you, Crystal. I'm so sorry. I was doing my own rant and checking my graphs. Crystal, how are you doing?
She added me quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure she did. How can we help you today?
So, just a quick question. I recently, I have 2 properties in Orlando, and I'm trying to work with a direct booking, and I'm on Hospitable since before it was the Smart B&B. A bunch of other friends use it. Are there any talks about joining with Hoofy? Because I know that has been a direct booking site that has been more. I know you guys do not have direct integrations with them.
So you're asking us whether we are contemplating integrating with Hoofy for distributing the direct booking website, correct?
Yep. No, I'm sorry, not the direct booking website, but the messages and to sync all the reservations and the stuff.
So I think that's something very interesting on the product side. I think that's something interesting because we are basically building a lot of things in relation with that. So we are already building the content. We just need to upload it to Hoofy and deal it with it like another channel. What simply I'm not sure what it's about is really what is the advantage of a website like Hoofy over a direct booking website?
It's basically it's a direct booking website, but it's kind of
I'm familiar, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a VRBO or an Airbnb where the owners do their own marketing. So people have been searching for properties and stuff on there, but without having to go to another property, another management software just to go and sync all 3 calendars. Because right now I have Airbnb, I have VRBO, and then if I have Hoofy, I have to go and I have to do price labs with that, and then I would have to do owner res. So I know that Owner Res does a bunch of different, Booking.com, Hoofy, Airbnb. So I just didn't know if you guys have that in the works as well. So and as far as payment.
Yeah, sure. So Crystal, we do have that. That's in the pipeline. I know that's something that's a very popular item. So I think we can find for you the item where basically we can register your vote if you have not voted for that already. Right now, in terms of execution, I don't want to create false expectations. We are focused on payment processing. We're focusing on direct, and that's already quite a lot to handle. So that's not something that is going to be developed on our side within the next 3 months, to be quite clear. I think that's a nice next step because that's the next step for us to basically integrate with Hoofy. But again, I'm not sure exactly about prioritization. What I can tell you is that currently we have 52 votes for Hoofy, and we have 1,010 for TripAdvisor, 63 for Furnish Finder. So you see, that's basically kind of the votes that we have received for those different channels. That's not necessarily guiding us in any particular way, though. The feasibility is also something we look at. What is interesting in relation with Hoofy is the process payment via Stripe. And that we mean that for us, based on the payment processing that we're building, we would want to basically go with a different type of integration. But that's something that basically Hoofy should be able to accommodate anyway. The wish is there.
Okay, thank you.
And with, we were also talking about the iCal integration and connection that should be coming probably before the integration with Hoofy. I know it's not solving every single one of the problems that you have there, Crystal, but at the end of the day, making sure that your availability is pushed to and received from could help manage those additional channels where we don't have the integration or aren't going to have it anytime in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Krista, for sharing that. And just, to increase those votes, which I would love to do, you can now click on the pin link in the room, and that would lead you straight to the Authy integration page. So if you're familiar with Authy, if you already are using Authy, would love for you to vote on that item so that we keep track of your interest.
Crystal,
okay, and is it only for hospitable members, or is it for people that are thinking of getting hospitable
to vote?
Yep.
For the most part, it's going to be hospitable hosts, but I'm sure that there are people who come through the support chat or who come through our chat that aren't customers that do have access to go and vote. It's not restricted solely to, but it's something that we only advertise to.
Okay.
I would love to work
Crystal.
for our customers. I think that's the one that keep us accountable. If there are other people and prospects, basically we end up burning hours, not necessarily for a clear outcome.
Yeah.
So that's that. If we basically see that the people that have voted are not the customers, that means there's probably something that's not clear, and that's.
And I'm not familiar with this whole chat town hall thing. Where's the link at?
The link is at the top of the room, so you can see at the top of the room here. You can see a link that's called loading. That's what it is for me anyway. And for feedback.hospitable.com. But you can go to feedback.hospitable.com, and basically you will be able to access all the different items that are pending for you, where you can vote.
Crystal, before we let you go, alterations and cancellations. Should your guests have full control over being able to cancel and alter? Would you like to have some control and requests? Any preferences there?
I think I would like to have some control. I just recently retired, so I'm doing the hosting and I'm doing all the reservations. So I'm just, now diving into everything. And Hospitable was very user-friendly, Smart B&B when I started last June. So I've kind of got everything down. So that's what I'm trying not to go 10 different ways. And I have someone building my website, because they did look through Hospitable and they did some widgets and stuff. But they said, the building website isn't there yet. The payment stuff isn't there yet. So, I went through on Stripe. So I'm just trying not to make more work for myself and keep it simple. So.
We hear you. We appreciate that. Thanks for sharing all that with us today here, Crystal.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay.
All right. So next on stage, we can invite Weston. Let's see.
Okay. Hello, Weston. Come join us if you can. Oops, sorry. I think I clicked and I invited someone accidentally on the room. Okay, Weston is not joining us right now. I think we can. Oh, that's Sean. Sean is gonna have a question about reviews. How are you doing, Sean?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Review notifications would be incredible. I'll leave that be for now, but I still want it really badly. My main question was about remote lock.
Yeah.
Will you still be doing direct integration with other locks, or are we going to have to sign up with remote lock and pay them a monthly fee to integrate with those other locks?
I think that's going to be the second route. We will not have Remote Lock is the integrator, and we will be integrating with a Remote Lock account, and then basically they abstract a lot of the logic, so that we basically just integrate with whatever device they have. We don't even need to know what devices they are connected there. And you are going to be having some interaction on the Hospitable application, so there's going to be connecting your Remote Lock account and then matching a device to a given property so that we can subscribe that device in a way to all the reservation updates and ensuring that the codes are created. You will need to be a Remote Lock customer. You will need to pay a subscription fee to Remote Lock that is basically going to be collected outside of Hospitable, of course. This is basically, we are going to integrate with more integrators. So Remote Lock is one. There are others that have reached out to us recently and that we are interested in working with. But we also working with the software partner that's going to allow us to build more integrations right out of the box. That is something that is on them. We don't have, clear timelines on that. But the one that is at the top of their roadmap is August and Yale. And when that's the case, you would no longer have to be a remote lock customer. You will be able to natively connect your Yale and August devices, your Yale and August smart locks to Hospitable. And then basically we have the direct connectivity on something that's been battle tested with Schlage. So yeah, to answer your question, you would need to be a remote lock customer. You would need to connect your device to remote lock, and then you connect your remote lock account to Hospitable for us to create the codes. Is that answering your question, Sean?
Yeah, that's great. And so you're going to keep the Schlage encode integration, and you will be adding more later directly, natively, without any cost.
Yeah, without any cost for now. That has a cost to us. And that has a cost to us, obviously. We have to pay Schlage and that software provider, a software interface, every time that you connect a new lock. But for now, we believe that as a cost that can be on us until there is a compelling offering for different smart locks. That's becoming an interesting item for our products once we are really adding the major brands on a native connection. Right now, it would be anecdotal. I think that's the word. So that's not worth the pain. My view, anyway. Thank you, Sean.
All right, thanks so much. And just to weigh in on the cancellation thing, I mean, if we can have our own cancellation policies like you do on VRBO, like you do on Airbnb, to where we set strict, flexible, etc., that would be my preference. But thanks for everything. Y'all rock.
So, Sean, stay there. You're talking about cancellation policy. That's a very good, interesting point. So for us on direct, that's going to be clear. For beginning, for everyone, there's going to be no refundable, no refund, no expectation of any kind of refund. We do think about basically still offering the host, if they are willing to refund a partial amount. So basically, when you're canceling a reservation, you basically get to decide if you want to stick to the terms, which basically is a default expectation, or if you want to refund a partial or entire amount. What do you think about that? What would you think about this kind of cancellation flow?
I mean, I think that's perfect. If we can have our own policy, but then obviously, if they have something happen in their family and they can't make it and we're able to rebook it and we want to give them a full refund, then I'd obviously love to have that option to be able to do that.
And yeah, so for you, cancellation policy is flexible? That's what you're using on Airbnb, for example?
Yeah, I use flexible mainly because, from what I've read, it helps your search ranking a little bit, but also we're booked consistently enough in most places where it really doesn't hurt us, and it gives people a peace of mind to book, knowing that they can adjust if they need to. We haven't gotten burned too much, so that's my current policy. Every once in a while, we'll get a big booking that gets canceled, and we'll get some grumblings, but for the most part, it's been fine for us.
Okay, and your motivation for the flexible is ranking on Airbnb. You never considered moving to another cancellation policy to see if that has an impact on your bookings, on your demand for bookings?
I mean, so I represent some different owners, and some of them like the moderate, like the 5-day or the 15-day. But I mean, like any of our properties, we just do flexible. And if someone, we get burned every once in a while, but I think we could probably get more bookings because of it at higher prices. And yeah, I mean, it hasn't hurt us enough to where we've changed it. I mean, I agree we should tinker more and test it out and see if we still get the bookings we like with a little more protection. But as long as we can have that choice on Hospitable, that'd be great.
Yeah, so that's something that we post-launch. So that's not something that you will be expecting to see first when we are launching direct product for everyone. What I want to say is that basically that's interesting because for you, the cancellation policy is tied to the search performance of your listings, whether true or false. And that's obviously a completely different reasoning when you're dealing with direct bookings. You own your reservation. You can cancel it if you're unhappy. You own the entire guest experience as much as we can on your website. And there really is no particular need to diversify with different cancellation policy. Obviously, I appreciate the fact that it's nice to basically have cancellation policy that are more flexible, that removes objections on dealing with a website that they don't know, that has not built a brand like Airbnb. At the same time, I think for us, the working scenario that we're dealing with is this is a return that maybe, the guest that's going to be more likely to be booking on direct bookings is, a returning guest, an alteration for extending a few more days, someone that is more tech savvy maybe and just going to look for the listing name on Airbnb and find your website. So basically they don't have to pay fees to the OTA to basically compensate them instead. And I don't think really the cancellation policy at this point is really a huge pressure, because the point of it, technically it's marginally easier to deal with a non-refundable cancellation policy. But I don't, obviously there is not like that main driver of basically search performance. It's basically finding something that's clearer terms and you know what to expect. If you don't want this cancellation policy, then you can always go back to an OTA and pay more after time. Is that reasoning that's controversial to you, Sean?
No, it makes sense that obviously I'm not relating, like search doesn't matter based on cancellation policy if it's my own website.
SEO does. SEO does.
Yeah,
it's really back to basics.
And, most of my plan is going to be to remarket to people that have already stayed with me. So I know they're good guests and they've already experienced, the product I put forth. So, there should be very little cancellation stuff. And if it does happen, I'll, if I select moderate with Hospitable, I'd still be, forgiving of them if they're a returning guest, if it is, a unique circumstance. But, as long as we can choose that, then I'm happy. And yeah, everything else sounds great.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sean, and looking forward to having you next on the next town hall.
Definitely, and a review notification last time. All right, thank y'all.
Yeah, we are due. Weston, thank you for joining. You find your way into the stage. Now, I think you're new to Clubhouse, so congratulations and welcome. If you want to unmute yourself, you're going to need to press the little mic button, the bottom right of your application, so that we can hear you. Weston, do you have any question? Can we help you today? Have you left us? No, Weston, we need you. You have plenty of great questions, and you are basically being very popular on the chat, from what I understand. Okay, Weston, I don't know. We can't seem to be hearing you. I think we can keep you on stage if you need some troubleshooting, and we can get you as soon as we can. Let's try and get someone waited for a little bit of time. Uncle Festus, Festus G. I think you showed up with us several times before. Thank you for everyone waiting on the waiting room. Maybe. Can someone join, please? Okay. Uncle. Are you my uncle?
Hi guys, how are we doing?
How can we help you today?
Right, so I have a quick question for you guys. So we do have Airbnb integrated, but we are connected to a couple channel managers. The challenge right now is we're looking to integrate Booking.com with the messaging. Is that possible without taking out our channel manager?
No, that's sorry to say. That's a clear restriction on Booking.com site. We'd love to be able to circumvent it in the same way that we do for Airbnb and Vrbo. But for Booking.com, Hospitable is the channel manager. So we're looking into some alternative avenues, and that's something that Matthew was talking about earlier about iCal imports. So we want to find a way, more or less sneaky, to be able to get the guest details or actually connect with your channel manager. What are you using?
So we use a couple different channel managers. So we use
different channel managers.
Yeah.
Wow.
All connected to, but Airbnb works like a charm for the messaging. But the challenge is obviously like we can't switch to you guys because we have a lot of complicated things going on from pricings. That's the issue. But can you guys facilitate something like maybe an email email chat, would that work or no?
So you can have it work today, I believe, with adding manually a booking. That probably won't be scaling very well for you. What we're considering is basically building those in-cal imports, and that's a core feature required to launch direct to a larger audience. So where basically if you are able to get an iCal feed for a property, and you can basically get either the booking.com iCal feed, but more importantly the channel manager ones, we can then basically, if that channel manager communicates to us the email, then basically we can automatically create a booking from that channel that basically will be reaching out to your guest via email. And then as we are hopefully progressing on.
So can we do that right now or no?
No, that's not something that you can do right now. That's something that was in the finishing stage. And I was talking about, earlier, and bringing some items to completion. That is one of the most important one with taxes that we basically need to revisit at this point to ensure that they are completed correctly for a launcher direct. I can't give you an estimate, but the thing is really the work on iCal feeds is very dependent on what software you're using, because every time we add a new provider, they are going to have a custom integration, especially as we want to extract some personal information in relation with your guests. Some do, some don't make it available, and we will prioritize basically for the channel managers, property management software, or channels that basically include that information, which is already a challenging one considering all the different work that's been happening recently around privacy and data protection. So that the thing is really what are you using for your booking.com listings?
So we use Easy. We also use Beds24.
Okay.
Yeah, we use a couple of them. But I guess my question is, what does iCal have to do with the conversation? Because if you can get the email, the booking.com email, that will go directly into the inbox. So can we do that now?
Yeah, but for which date? For which property? The email is nothing.
If we put the booking in manually.
If you open the booking manually, you can do that right now. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
You need to provide that every time. You need to manually input the guest email and all, but that would absolutely work. Yes.
But could we do that through the API? Could we add the booking through the API?
That's not something that's working right now.
Oh, okay.
It's also part of the thing that we would love to have, but that's not something that's working.
Okay,
right
all
now.
right. No, if you can do it manually, then that's a good thing. Then at least we can start with that and see how that goes from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, try it out. That's not a scalable solution, but it gets the ball rolling.
At least it'll get us to
Thank you
see
very
some of
much.
the problems that we'll encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll start with that. Thank you so much.
You can start with that. Thank you very much, Festus. Do we have Weston back? Weston?
I think Weston has problems with his mic. He typed in the chat that he can't unmute.
Oh no, that's too bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's very sad. Sorry for that. Let's get someone else. Simona, you've been tracking who is raising their hands.
Yes, let's invite Marvin on stage. Marvin, you should be able to get on stage. Let's see. Marvin, are you here?
Yes. No. We're not being very lucky today. Okay, I'm gonna invite everyone, so at least we're getting someone on stage, ideally without a mic problem. So I'm inviting also Monique, and I'm inviting Tamara. So hopefully someone can join. Hello, Tamara, you're the first on stage. Welcome. How can we help you today? Tamara, you can unmute yourself if you can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, fantastic.
Great.
Beautiful mic setup.
Great. I just wanted to know about your security deposits. Are they going to expire automatically, or is it something that we have to go in and manually take off once we've inspected the property?
So, Tamar, that is a great question, but I need to clarify immediately that this is not what was released, obviously, earlier today. what we released today is simply informing and allowing you on Airbnb's own booking flow, on booking screens, to inform your guest that you will collect a security deposit separate from Airbnb. So that's the part that was communicated. So that means your guest cannot be surprised that you're collecting a security deposit. Now, how to collect the security deposit is a very big question, and that's a very different one.
Okay, so hold on. One additional question then. So when you do allow direct bookings through Hospitable, I'm assuming that you can also collect a security deposit at that time. And if so, how is that going to work? As far as does it expire?
So payment information. So first of all, we communicated multiple times that we have different kind of booking. We're going to have different kind of direct offerings depending on whether, for example, you already have some experience managing direct bookings and you have the processes in place to be able to make that positive experience, or you don't have anything. In that case, we are taking a lot of responsibility for you to ensure that your guests that book direct are going to be at least easier to get than basically what you have on an OTA. So safer with insurance, with guest screening, with tax compliance. So that's basically expanding this conversation. I'm really clear on that. I've been consistent. I do not believe that security deposit are great and compelling answers from the guest perspective. And I think secure hosts that will ask security deposit are adding a lot of friction that is not necessarily in the advantage of their bottom line. What I believe is that insurance, having a third party being liable for that, is actually a much more elegant solution, provided obviously that insurance is coming at the expense of the guest directly. So for us, what it's going to mean for a direct premium offering, we're going to charge the guest a fee for the insurance on damages to the property, rather than basically having a complex conversation around security deposits, which can be subject to chargeback and consumer disputes. And basically, the more aggressive, the more toxic guests are going to find their way out of the loops, whereas with an insurance, you are going to be protected every single time. I believe that's strongly also why Airbnb decided to drop the ball on that feature, as they basically are ramping up on insurance with more effort put towards air cover for hosts. Now, I do know that definitely a lot of hosts still want to have security deposits. And there are very strict rules about basically what you can do with that. When you process a payment, you always have two parts to it. You have an authorization and you have a capture. The authorization is that hold on your credit card. The capture is the funds are basically yours now. They belong to the host. They have been transferred. What we want to have, and really as basically the best practice in relation with security deposit, is we just need to put a hold to authorize a payment for the amount of the security deposit, but that money is not yours yet. You're going to need, if there is something there, if you need to collect the security deposit to capture the security deposit, then you need to provide some evidence and some documentation to protect you against the risk of chargebacks and basically not having any money left, because they will basically call their bank and then it's game over for you. It's basically limited in time. So you can only hold funds for up to 28 days, except in France, for some reason, for certain service providers. So 28 days. So that means if you're having a guest that is going to be booking today for, let's say the 1st of September, you can't hold a security deposit within the same booking flow. You're going to need to ask them by the date of the check-in to secure to basically authorize their card on security deposit. So you need to follow up with them and taking another payment action to authorize the card. That's something that Airbnb never did, because they basically changed back their implementation of security deposit to a way that's actually more workable to get bookings rather than basically making it all safe. And that's why they also invested more effort into basically building an insurance product. So the plan, and really coming from early conversation into how could we make that work with the engineering team this morning, was really we need to basically authorize the funds as close to possible at the check-in date. And we are really ideally positioned for that because we can retain, not send the check-in instructions and any kind of message that are necessary to gain access until the security deposit has been authorized. And if there is a reservation that is taking longer than the longest amount we can hold the funds, then basically we need to capture those funds. Now, capturing the funds means that it's your liability, you're having an escrow account, that money is not yours to perceive, it's something that you're expecting to refund back. It's not a nightmare situation, but it's something that, is good on paper, but creates a lot of liability for you. If Stripe, for example, a payment processor, realizing you're doing escrow without having an explicit authorization for them, that can put your business at risk. And we're talking about significant amounts for some of you in terms of security deposit. The second part of it is that you're going to be charged on the captures. The third part, so you're going to have 3%, say, payment processing fee. For most, that's basically inconsequential, but that's something that can become a factor. The third part of it, some payment service providers, Stripe among those, consider that basically when you refund a customer, it's the same as a chargeback. They want low-risk customers. So if you are refunding every other transaction from your Stripe account, you're going to have a risk rate that's going to flag you on Stripe. All the disaster stories that you hear on Stripe about basically those kind of about accounts getting shut down or errors processing or holding on the funds for 100 days, more than 90 days actually, stories like that for a lot longer, are basically related with basically that rule on the risk side for Stripe. Now you can find a way to circumvent. That's really going to do a lot of work towards the underwriting of your account, having explicit authorization for the things that you're doing. And I can assure you, I've seen the form that Stripe sent us for direct for processing the payments and facilitating the payments. I decided not to do it because I don't have a week to work that out. I have plenty of data. I have a team of engineers. I'm not going to spend more time on basically doing that. That's basically a waste of time. I don't believe that it is the same process, and whether you have 1,000 properties or 10, you're going to have to go through the same underwriting process. It's just basically different amounts that may be involved. And so that's to put that into perspective. That's kind of the challenge of security deposits. It seems secure on the host side. It's probably affecting the guest experience. It is a guarantee that if you have a damage, a claim, you're going to be able to capture it, but it doesn't mean that you're going to retain the funds because they're always going to be a subject of a chargeback for 3 months. Whereas, for me, an insurance is basically, okay, there is this damage, I'm claiming it, and I basically can get a refund much faster. To answer your literal question, that's going to be an authorization for up to 28 days, as long as we can, and then basically that can be a capture for longer reservations. But it still is something that's very early for us to kind of talk about at this point. I believe all those kind of points are one of the reasons why security deposits didn't work for Airbnb in terms of collecting, having the security deposit as an advantage in terms of keeping your listing safe, not introducing too much friction on the guest side, and actually having something that works for the host. Really, I think at the end of the day, insurance seems a lot more compelling. But that's just my opinion. What do you think about it, Tamara? And I think other people that are on stage at this point, because I've removed everything I had on my chest.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I never even realized that I can only hold a security deposit for 28 days. So the insurance does make sense. I just want to make sure that they'll pay for things like extra cleaning, things that like not necessarily damage, but just like usually it's extra cleaning. Somebody explodes something in the microwave and doesn't clean it up, or spills something and my cleaning service has to do clean the oven and that kind of thing. I will charge an extra cleaning fee, and some insurances won't accept that.
No, of course,
because it's not damage.
No, it's
not something that's damage.
It's an add-on. It's an upsell. And the problem there is that, that's kind of raising another point, is that for me, from my perspective. And to be clear, I have a skin in the game because it's going to be, for what we're contemplating most for direct and for security deposit, it's going to be Hospitable, the business charging the guests directly. So for most of you, that's not going to be that's going to be your responsibility under your merchant account, under your payment service provider. That's going to be ours. So we're taking that risk off from you. That means it's becoming ours. But for you, so to put that even more clearly into perspective, you won't be able in this normal way to capture the funds for security deposit without having a proper damage claim to make that defensible to a payment service provider, to any kind of bank if there is a dispute. You using that actually for add-ons means that, okay, I would actually much rather put that effort onto those add-ons, onto those upsells, onto facilitating the payment experience for, okay, I'm booking that service, etc., rather than basically using what I believe would be the wrong tool for what you're saying is your actual usage. And that is something that we're very excited to have work on, post-launch, when it's time to expand on direct booking features, to have more upsells, a guest portal, an ability to create alterations, to cancel according to terms. So really working next level. But yeah, for me, the security deposit and the restrictions around that are common to all payment service providers make it a very challenging proposition. I can do that. My competitors, alternative products, are doing that. They're doing that for a fee, for a clear reason. And they do that also exclusively under your own merchant account. So, if you get shut down by Stripe and you can no longer process any direct booking, it's, I would be losing a customer that may be bringing, $50 a month. For you, it's your entire business. And I don't believe I can do that in a responsible way, if I'm honest.
Hey, Pierre, this is Monique. Can I jump in and piggyback on this security deposit conversation?
Go ahead. That's the best talks. I would very much prefer that. Hopefully I didn't scare everyone away from security deposits.
No, you actually gave me a little more insight. I kind of already knew about the whole Stripe situation, which is why I had already implemented using PayPal to do a pre-authorization hold, and then they automatically release the funds in 28 days. I hate to mention where I learned of this from, but I did learn of it from a Hoofy group, which is great that I learned about it, because I'm going to now implement this in the process with Hospitable, basically. I mean, because I already have the Jot form ready, and then I already have the PayPal connected to the Jot form, and it's like all
Perfect.
automated. So I just need to fix the messaging in Hospitable for this new Airbnb change that they did, and it'll be great. So I am just super thankful that your guys' team implemented what they did for security deposits. Even though it's not all automated, it still works. It's going to work fantastic once I fix my templates and everything. I'm just super thankful, because I was just cringing at thinking about leaving Hospitable and going to Owner Res, because I didn't want to do that. I love you guys, and you guys are awesome. So I appreciate you guys jumping on this.
Owner Res is awesome too. They give us plenty of customers.
Oh, great.
Monique, it sounds like you have a fantastic blog post to write in your future that hosts are going to love and share forever.
But yeah, so I am just super thankful that you guys did that, and I can't wait to implement it. I'm already changing my rental agreements to not say Airbnb Resolution Center. And like I said, I'm going to fix my messaging. So just thank you guys for that. And I do appreciate all the information you talked about, about doing chargebacks on Stripe, because I had heard about that you put your account at risk. And I don't want to have my account at risk on Stripe or on Airbnb by using the Resolution Center. So you guys did me a great favor, and I'm sure, other hosts as well.
I changed the mind of someone on the internet about security deposit. I can't believe what's basically open to me right now. Security deposit are one of the subjects where basically hosts have very strong opinions.
I use it as I understand what you're saying. Like, it's not like the end all be all, like, oh, it doesn't really do what we want it to do. Cause I understand that guests can cancel their credit card, right? But I actually kind of use it as like a pre-screening thing. I figure if guests don't want to pay a security deposit, well, in this point, they won't be paying it. They'll be pre-authorizing. If they don't want to even do that, then I don't want them staying at my home. You know what I mean? Like, So I use it as like a screening process. Like if you can't even do that, then
So
I don't want you.
What is your screening process outside of basically collecting a security deposit that increase the liability a little bit?
So I have them give me a copy of their government ID. They have to sign a rental agreement, and then we do the security deposit. So I figure if they jump through all of those hoops, I make it a little difficult, I think, because a lot of people just want an instant book and, show up at somebody's house or cabin or whatever it is, whatever property they have. But I want them to go through all of my steps. You have to do a rental agreement, authorize the security deposit, and then, also send your ID. And I've gotten, some hesitation on some people, and eventually they either do it. I don't think I've actually had anybody ever cancel. But I make sure to have that listed in my description, in my house rules. And then even in the first message that they get, it's like 1, 2, 3, this is what you need to do.
Yeah. Sorry. So first of all, thank you very much for sharing your tips about the screening.
Yeah.
On our side, so for example, what we're looking at for direct bookings, what's going to be asked and screened. So basically, we're going to ask the personal info from the guests. We're going to ask the guest list, all the guests that have been said about. There's going to be a part about house rules. I don't know exactly how that's going to work at this point in time. We're going to ask for an ID verification, so government ID that's going to be managed externally, so you're not taking liability in terms of identity theft in particular.
Nice.
And that ID verification is going to be checked for validity with
Nice.
as much database as can happen. There's going to be a field about the purpose of stay. There is an option for background. What we're contemplating is really having for you an option to run a background check. I think there are some HOA or condominium that basically ask you to run those for tenants. There is a specific screen for long term. I've not configured that just yet. And there is basically also the ability to do some authority reporting. I think that's more in touch with some European-based customers would need to basically have that connection for the passport number, etc.
Yeah.
That's basically is what screening is about. Is ensuring that you know who your guest is, and then you can make an informed decision on what's going to happen. And on top of that, you basically can flag. So one of the things that actually I'm not talking about, because we won't ask them that there's something that's going to happen directly on a booking flow in terms of screening. We're going to check, the credit cards they're using, the payment method that they're using, if there are multiple transactions, if there are multiple declines. And obviously, that's not, just from us. It's really due to the excellent and amazing cooperation with AutoHost. Roy, the CEO of AutoHost, was in the room a few minutes ago, so that was amazing of him to be there. But that's really we're working on something a bit custom for what we're looking to build. And there are also some amazing business rules. So, for example, every last-minute reservation is going to need to be reviewed. Every time there is a name mismatch with, for example, a credit card number and the name of the guest or any of the guests, that's going to be flagged for review. If there are multiple payments that have failed or, credit cards that are not aligned with the localization of the guest, that's going to be flagged for review. If there is a local one-night stay, that's going to be flagged for review. I actually don't know. I can make it an automatic decline, but that's a bit swash. Credit card declines, that's going to be flagged for review. A guest under 25, that's going to be flagged for review. A party risk, that's going to be flagged for review. And we also will be working on a blacklist, so that basically if a guest is on the blacklist once, they basically will be declined from any booking for any direct booking. So that's what screening is about. It's not basically having payment as a restriction. It's basically you build a risk profile.
Yeah, I like that.
Who the guest is, and basically you don't use security deposit for another purpose.
Yeah.
So for now, I really hate it, but what you shared is really so that's really great. It's basically building a higher threshold to find whether basically guests are motivated enough to do that. I think the reality is that I had a fantastic webinar a few weeks ago with Ella from AutoHost, with the CPO of the Chief Product Officer of AutoHost, and really was giving those kind of cases where you believe you're safe because you're doing something, but at the same time, the actual fraudulent guests have already that kind of contingency for this kind of thing. I'm going to charge a stolen credit card for the deposit. There is no safety that it provides you, and it's costing 20 cents on the black market to do that. So you're not safe because you process security deposit. The actual bad actors are more likely to go circumvent those rules. I'm not sorry, Monique. I don't want to
No.
sound harsh. This is nothing about you. This
Oh,
is
no,
really
yeah, no,
the thing
no,
that I've heard, and kind of because as a responsibility, we're gonna have pretty much a great one on that.
No, yeah, I totally know. I wasn't, paying for like a third party to do any kind of background testing or anything. I was just trying to make it as difficult as possible as I could within a free way of screening.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally understand. And I love all the things that you mentioned about, checking their credit card and checking for chargebacks. I mean, obviously I didn't have a way of doing that unless I paid for some kind of service.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the background, checking. That's pretty cool. And the blacklist is great. I mean, I love that. That's awesome.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Marvin. I would love to. We'll have you, no problem. But there was a great comment from Evan that was in the chat saying, "Oh, are you able to hold funds for 28 days? Stripe is only showing a 7-day authorization via the API website. Just want to be sure the security process of this isn't just simply remembering card numbers and renewing, which is less secure." So no problem about that. We actually are using Adian. For everything that's direct, that's called on direct premium. So that's the part where we are, so Hospitable as a business is acting as a payment facilitator. And from what we've checked this morning on their API documentation, we're able to have an authorization for up to 28 days, except for 12 days in France when they are processing by carte bancaire. I'm sorry, I'm a bit ashamed of my country there. But I do understand why Stripe is showing the 7 is having a more restricted authorization, because they want to have those reduced risk customers and those reduced risk workflows, whereas Adian is going to cost us more, but we're committed to more transaction volume, but we actually are able to have more of an enterprise product that is more adapted to the scale that we're dealing with in relation with direct bookings. So we can do things that indeed are probably not available for the average Stripe customer, although I'm pretty sure, obviously, that at the end of the day, it's still you can still be able to move a little bit further if you ask. So for us, what we have in terms of information at this point in time, and that may not be the right one, is 28 days for basically for having an authorization on a credit card. And yeah, we can remember the credit card number for a long time. It's as long as it's vaulted and is added, that's not a particular problem. Just the authorization is something that requires the user presence to. So yeah, I hope that basic. Thank you very much, Tamara. Thank you very much, Monique, for stepping in and answering a few questions. What I hear is that security deposits are used not just for the damages, it's also for the upsells, for the additional services that a guest may be likely to have. And that can, so Tamara had this great example of having a mid-stay cleaning or an extra cleaning that would be important. And Monique shared that she was using security deposits as a way to, as part of what we were saying, from a free package, from a free vetting, to be able to set a bar a little bit higher. And she did it through PayPal. I find that's interesting. So that, if I find that basically PayPal may have its own kind of liabilities and limitations. But that's good for you to know if you are basically now capable of, since you are all now capable of setting a security deposit on Airbnb, that you have to manage differently and separately. But I would recommend try to avoid something on Stripe because that may be a bit more of a liability. But that's just my perception and what we've done from checking. Marvin? Are you still here? Yes, you're here. Hey, fantastic.
Yeah.
How can I help you?
I'm here. Yeah, thank you. This has been very insightful, so I definitely appreciate the conversation. My question was specifically in regards to when guests send inquiries, say through Airbnb, a guest sends an inquiry, and then for whatever reason, they just choose not to book. Is there a way to, as the host, is there a way for me to get access to their phone number and or email so that I can then later, market to them for direct bookings? Is that a feature?
So you mean you have an inbound guest from Airbnb and you want to have their phone number and email address?
Right, but they're only an inquiry though. Like they only send an inquiry, but they don't book. Correct. Yeah.
No, Airbnb will never facilitate that kind of scenario because that ends up always feeding Verbo or Booking.com guest list and advertising. So that's not going to happen. That simply is a hard restriction. There is no particular. I don't know if I'm understanding the question right. So maybe Matthew can step in. Matthew wants to.
Yeah, and you are understanding the question, right? I get you, Marvin, but no, that's not something Airbnb allows. We do have a feature within our system where we can send an automated message, 24 hours after that pre-approval expired. If you're pre-approving those guests who send inquiries in, as a bit of a marketing tactic to try to get them excited to make that booking for you. I do know for a time that we had some Verbo phone numbers that were coming through. I'm not sure if that always comes through or if that's the case. I know there were certain hosts out there recommending using our software for that specific reason, because then they could contact the guests, and maybe take that booking offline. So unfortunately, no, there's nothing that we can do, and as Pierre mentioned, Airbnb guards that information super, super close to the chest, to make sure that, you don't do exactly that and try to market to them and have them avoid, using Airbnb. They do a pretty good job at that. That's for sure.
But, and that's, sorry, Marvin, but the point of it is that once you have a lead from an OTA, from Airbnb, from a Verbo, from Booking.com, then it's yours to retarget. Once they have made that booking on an OTA for however small amount or shorter stay, then you can convert them into a direct booking website. So you need, in every single platform, you need to have basically that accepted reservation status to be able to gain exposure onto personal information that allows them to contact them out of the platform. When you think about it, that is an OTA's product. It's basically ensuring that there is, actually, I would say that's two products. The first one is pricing opacity. You want the guest that's going to pay you want the price that the guest is going to pay to not be known by the host, back and forth. And you also want to make sure that you secure the messaging so that the transaction happens on your platform, nowhere else. But after that, everything is fair game.
And are you doing that, Marvin? Are you asking for guest emails, once they've come through and adding them to your customer database?
Yes, I am. Yep. So yeah, currently I get the phone numbers and email addresses because a large part of my business is direct bookings. So then using that information to later, promote direct bookings directly through the website. So yes, I am. Yeah, I did have one other question, if possible. The difference between the iCal integration versus integrating directly to Airbnb. I guess, are there any apparent differences? Because I keep hearing about the two being different, but I don't understand how.
You're talking about an iCal integration in the context of Airbnb?
Right. So the iCal integration with Hospitable with Airbnb versus actually logging into the Airbnb account through the Hospitable website or app.
So we don't offer an iCal integration with Airbnb. Our integration has always been a direct API integration with them. Maybe you may be confused with the previous connection and then how we switched to have the official authorization flow.
You know what? I think I'm confusing the iCal with the API then. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, because typically iCal and API, those are very different connections, right? Companies who are using iCal connections, those are typically a bit slower, a lot less reliable, where API, hey, we're making calls, we're receiving data. That two-way API connection is working lightning fast. And that's what we have currently with Airbnb. We have an API connection with Booking.com, Verbo. We don't offer those iCals. We do give you the ability to utilize your iCal and connect your calendar with other platforms if need be. But yeah, we don't have an option for you to connect with your Airbnb. So rest assured, you got the best connection possible there with Hospitable and Airbnb.
Yeah, so I think I misspoke. I should have said the API connection, the difference between the API versus the direct, just logging in through the app, the difference between the two. Is one just more so just controlling the calendars, whereas the other one, is maybe different? Does that make more sense?
It does. We had a different flow previously with our connection. That's changed, and everybody, you don't have the option to go either or. We forced everybody to go through with that full API connection where you're authorizing. So right now within the system, we only have one connection available. And so if you're using Hospitable, you're using that connection.
Marvin, are you confusing us with Logify?
You may be confusing. You may be confusing us with some other
because
partners.
they are the only ones that basically that you may be using that used to have an ICAL integration because they didn't have access to an API connection, and then they moved, I think, some time ago. But I wouldn't believe that to be true because that was already some time ago, and that means I'm too old in this niche. But there is no such thing as an ICAL integration with Airbnb. That's something that maybe third-party software developers are using, waiting for an official Airbnb integration access. The problem is that Airbnb is going to shut down those ICAL feeds that are already quite unreliable. There is basically a push for not communicating any data that's meaningful on those ICAL feeds, and they want to invest more towards software providers that are API connected rather than relying on ICAL. Who is the average host that's going to need to use an ICAL feed? Is the average host that's going to be a host that is going to be distributing their listings on different channels. And if you want to have a reliable supply from the looks at Airbnb and having reliable calendars, you cannot trust iCals anymore. You are going to have a risk of double bookings, and that's why basically you want to have some fighting on terms so that hosts get to refund the relocation of a guest and whose reservation was canceled by host. You've heard about that. And that's all tied to the same thing. How do you get quality supply? By ensuring the calendars are freshly updated. iCal feeds and their delays of several hours are no longer sufficient. You need to have API integration. For us, what it means that as soon as you get a reservation, we have that immediately into our application, provided Airbnb is fast enough and Airbnb is not down, but that's basically the usual liability there. iCal feeds are every 4 hours. Airbnb is refreshing their iCal feeds, so you have a window of 4 hours during which your iCal feed is not updated. That's not workable.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense then. Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay. You know what? I started this call by saying that I'm due to have a few beers with Simona now, and I think Simona is growing impatient.
Simona is thirsty, yes.
Simona is thirsty. We're in Brussels.
Sorry.
We're gonna have a few beers. It's 0:00 for us. Simona, I will let you close the rooms. But thank you, everyone. I had a fantastic time with you. It was great to be able to exchange a little bit on security deposit. I know there's been a lot of questions on Stripe. I'm seeing the message from Evan. There are lots of questions I would love to answer, but please get on stage. We're having the next panel on the 15th of June. But that's already me overextending my stay. Simona, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Simona, off to you.
Thanks all. Thanks. See you on the next one. Bye for now.
Ciao, ciao, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.